Protest shaped America and made it the place it is today. Protest continues our desire as Americans to drive forward as a society and keep getting better. Protest breaks the chain of oppression and creates justice for all. Today, protest is one of the only and most effective ways that the people of America can get their voices heard.
Others standing up for what we know. We are the people. We have people power.
Protest is one of the most important rights we have. Without protest, we could have ended up living in a society like Nazi Germany. Little to no rights and extreme oppression. Protest has pretty much been around since America was founded. At 10 p.m. on December 16, 1773, one of the first acts of civil disobedience took place, the Boston Tea Party. Civil disobedience is the refusal to obey certain laws in protest of something. Civil disobedience is very important because it can make a bigger impact on society than regular protest, and is very useful for when the government is oppressive and does not allow protest. That night in Boston, over 100 people dressed as Native Americans sneaked onto cargo ships and dumped over 40 tons of tea into the Boston Harbor to protest against unfair taxation by British rule. Civil disobedience, in fact, is actually what gave America independence and made it the United States. When the colonists of early America wanted separation from British rule, they tried many times to formally ask Britain to be separated, but it was only through rebellion and civil disobedience that America was freed from the unfair British rule. After America gained independence from Britain, protest and perseverance by abolitionists pushed America into the Civil War. This is the war that freed the slaves from the terrible oppression of enslavement, where African Americans had to endure laborious work under terrible conditions with zero pay at all. It was arguably the people that protested and fought for the end of slavery before the war started that pushed America into the Civil War and eventually ended slavery. Even though slavery was abolished, there was still extreme segregation and oppression of African Americans. This evolved into the civil rights movements during the 1950s and 1960s, led by Martin Luther King Jr.
Dr. King, how are things shaping up now for tomorrow?
Things are shaping up beautifully. We have people coming in from all over the country. I suspect that we will have representatives from almost every state in the Union, and naturally a large number of people from the state of Alabama. And we hope to see, and we plan to see, the greatest witness for freedom ever taken place, that has ever taken place on the steps of the capital of any state in the South. And this whole march adds drama to this total thrust. Last Sunday, more than 8,000 of us started on a mighty walk from Selma, Alabama.
MLK and his followers kept marching peacefully past racists, spitting at them, throwing rocks at them, and calling them horrible names for the equality of African Americans and the end of segregation. This movement led to extremely large protests, such as in Washington, D.C., where Martin Luther King gave his
I have a dream
speech to over 250,000 onlookers. The Civil Rights Movement also gave birth to another major civil disobedience act by Rosa Parks. Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat on a bus reserved for white people only.
Are you gonna move? No.
Tired of the racist laws telling her that she had to give up her seat for someone else just because of the color of her skin. She was promptly arrested for this refusal. The word spread quick about Rosa Parks' arrest, and the next week the buses were half empty. People who agreed with Rosa's mission boycotted the bus company and walked through the rain, sleet, and snow to support Rosa's cause. This eventually led for the bus to have changed the rules and allow anyone to sit wherever they want, no matter their skin color. If this does not show the importance of civil disobedience, I do not know what does. Right after the civil rights protests ended, a new era of protests began. Protests against the Vietnam War. These protesters were generally called hippies, and protested mainly for peace, equality, and conservation of the environment. The anti-war movement caused many protests, strikes, and sit-ins to help their cause. The anti-war movement also held one of the largest marches in Washington, D.C. that contained over 500,000 protesters. These protests that happened all throughout American history shaped our country and made it the place it is today. Almost every single example made extreme change and affects the lives of every single person in this country. The Boston Tea Party led to more tension between colonists and Britain, which eventually led to the Revolutionary War. The Revolutionary War, which was started off as acts that are considered civil disobedience, gave America freedom from Britain and made it its own country. Protests and civil disobedience by abolitionists pushed America into the Civil War, eventually ending slavery. Martin Luther King Jr. and the civil rights movements led to the end of segregation in America and one step closer to true equality. The hippies that protested against the Vietnam War was the main reason why the U.S. pulled out of Vietnam. It is seen throughout history that protests can make change, and it is our right and duty as American citizens to protest when we see something that needs to be changed. Protest today is just as big and as important as it has always been. Some topics these modern protests center around is race and gender equality, immigration rights, and environmental awareness. I wanted to experience some of these protests firsthand, so I went into New York City to interview some people participating in the immigration march to find out their thoughts on the importance of protest and civil disobedience.
Inspiring for the people who, to other people that are quote bystanders, to see that you can do it.
We want people to see the crowd, and also within the crowd, we want to bring people together.
Yeah.
That's something that doesn't happen if you stay home and have your opinion or voice it on the internet. You come out and voice it in the streets, and you get connected in a way you were not connected before. And I gotta say, in terms of the democracy, you know, casting your vote is an important aspect of the democracy, but showing up for a protest when it's something that you care about is almost just as important.
This is how we show what we're standing for, and you know, what we want and that we want it now. It's you know, you can't just have a voice during the election. Once people are in office, you need to show them how you want them to govern.
While it is true that we may not know what change these modern protests and movements will have, if history truly does repeat itself, as we've seen with every other historical American protest, in the future we'll begin to see true equality for all people, immigration rights, and stronger environment laws. Whether or not you agree with these modern protests and causes, it is important to understand the importance and power of protest and how much it truly can change, because you never know when it will be your rights being violated, and I hope that if that day comes, you understand that it is your right and duty to protest, and that you know that you truly can make the change.